Anisha Ford. I'm the curriculum coordinator.
So my PowerPoint that I focused on was Lexia Core and how it improves fourth grade comprehension. One of the reasons I did this is because when we completed the STAR assessment and we looked overall, we noticed how a lot of students weren't scoring proficient. So comprehension is one of the things they struggle with, so I wanted to see if Lexia Core would improve that. This is implemented in all the fourth grade classrooms as well as all the classrooms in the school. I wanted to see if the impact Lexia had would affect their comprehension and vocabulary and fluency as well. The purpose of this is to help increase the students' comprehension. We want them to become better readers and be more successful. Generating strategies to help them have higher comprehension, higher fluency, and increase those vocabulary skills, and as well to see what the impact is of Lexia. One of the aspects of this study was to do a literature review, and so I found several different authors and what they focused on as far as comprehension and how that kind of affected things. So one thing that I found interesting was that 2/3 of the American fourth graders can only read at or below grade level, and I know we see that a lot in our classrooms as well. And then the second bullet really stuck out to me because we know that we're a low-income school, so students from high poverty areas often lack that exposure at home, those vocabulary words, and so that hinders them in the classroom. And of course, fluency also hinders comprehension if you're struggling at fluency. Also, something I found interesting was the foundation of comprehension. The comprehension goes beyond word and sentence level understanding. So it draws on those lower level and higher level skills, vocabulary, which we really focus on, grammar, which is a huge target point in fourth grade. Lack of fluency can have a huge impact on their comprehension. The better they are at fluency, more than likely the better they'll be at comprehension. Struggling readers, they have difficulty improving, especially their fluency. That is, again, what I said, enables them to be successful at comprehension. Next slide, please. So with Lexia, I looked some research up on Lexia as well. We know that Lexia, it hits those target skills, the reading, phonics, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency. So Lexia is also appropriate whether it's students who have been held back, remediation, first time it's ever been used, or if we want to accelerate some students. I know that we've had 2 students master and pass Lexia. If we attempt to read in an area for which we have no prior knowledge, we struggle with comprehension. So really implementing that schema helps them have that background. And students who use sensory images can make connections between their experiences, and they can use their senses as well to comprehend the text. So that kind of goes back to that schema as well. Here's just the reference page and some of the authors, and I can get those articles to you if you would like to see them as well. So my big question was, what effect does the Lexia program have on fourth graders' reading comprehension? We know that several of our students are below grade level, and when I looked at the data, we had 65% of them who entered below grade level. Students struggle with comprehension, vocabulary, fluency, and Lexia Core 5 is the online program our school has been implementing in all grade levels. I wanted to determine the effect that Lexia has on the students' comprehension, fluency, vocabulary skills, and we know that oftentimes struggling readers lack that self-confidence, so ways to boost that. The students that I use my homeroom, so I have 20 students who are between the ages of 9 and 10. 7 of those students are girls, 13 are boys. 4 of the students have an IEP for speech. 2 of those students are served in reading. And we have 3 students with behavior interventions and 7 students who are RTI. And then when I looked at the STAR data, we had 7 students who were scoring at grade level or higher. So some of the instruments and materials I used for this, I used the STAR assessment. We use that monthly to measure our students' progress. I use the Scott Forsman Selection weekly test that we give every Friday that quizzes them over the comprehension, the vocabulary, and the writing. Of course, Lexia Core that we use. Most students have to complete 80 minutes a week. That's their targeted usage. fluency checks that are used weekly. And then with the fluency checks, each week a new passage is given to the students, and overall we're just trying to improve their comprehension. So here's some information on STAR. We know that it's our universal screener we use to monitor students' progress. It's given once a month at the beginning of the year. Students take it, and based on how they score, we give them a goal to reach by the end of the school year. And then we have the trend line to see whether they're headed towards that goal or not. Students scoring in the 20th percentile or below are considered RTI. Here is an example of another instrument I use, the Scott-Forsman test. This page right here is over the vocabulary of the week. As you can see, it's underlined, and then it goes on to question them about the comprehension skill of the week. Lexia is designed to increase students' reading skills in all areas. If you look at the report, it will you can see specific standards that the students are mastering. Reports are printed weekly, so we can kind of see what they're learning, what they're not learning, and making sure they're meeting their usage. Students who use Lexia could be at grade level, below grade level, or above grade level, based off the first test that they take. Here is an example of a fluency check that are completed weekly. We track these with words correct per minute, and they're used to work on the fluency, rate, and their expression. So here's just some kind of facts about each of the instruments that are used. STAR, it assesses the students on, sees where they're at as far as grade level, percentile points, and that kind of stuff. You can look on some of the reports, and it will tell you what their weaknesses are, where they need more skill. The Scott-Forsman test, which is given every Friday, and assesses their comprehension and vocabulary based off the target skills that week. Lexia, students are supposed to complete about 80 minutes weekly. It helps them practice and learn those reading skills that they're struggling with. It's designed to meet and exceed the Common Core, and we use the reports weekly. Fluency checks are given every Friday, and that helps assess their words correct per minute, accuracy, and their comprehension. So here is a pie chart based off Lexia. This shows what level the students are currently working at. It's hard to see, but this right here, 65% of the students are below grade level, 15% are on grade level, and 20% are working above grade level. We had 16 students who started Lexia below the 4th grade level when we started at the beginning of the year. So just while we think some students are not at grade level, maybe some of them have an IEP and are working below grade level. We have 7 RTI students, we said, and students haven't mastered those foundational skills to move on. So they haven't mastered the fluency, word recognition, that kind of stuff. And then here is the performance predictor. We have 79% students who are considered high risk and only 21% who are considered on target. And then we have 0 who are not at some risk. And so what I thought was interesting is high risk means that the students have a 1 to 30% chance of reaching the end of the year benchmark that we've set for them. So some reasons why students may be high risk is, maybe they have an IEP or a 504. RTI students Students began Lexia below 4th grade level, so it's kind of hard for them to play catch up. Students may need reteaching of different kind of standards in the ELA behavior concerns, or maybe students have difficulty focusing. So we're just trying to stay on them, get them back on task. Okay. So here is a graph that shows meeting Lexia usage. As you can see, the week of March 14th, we had 100% of the students meeting theirs. The week of March 21st and 28th, only 56% met theirs. And then again on April 4th, we had 100%. So we know that we implement this during Reading RTI. And it's the one day of the week that we get your class gets the computers. So one of the reasons that they may not be meeting it is because they're pulled out for RTI during that time. So we're trying to play catch up for them. Limited access to internet outside of school because maybe they're just not doing it at home as well. Attention problems, again, not staying focused on lessons. Or they're absent from school the day that we complete Lexia. Here is a graph of the levels completed. So if you look, 20% of students have completed 8 levels, 10% have completed 7, 20% has completed 6, and 5 as well. 5% has completed 4, 15% has completed 3 levels, and 5% has completed 2 or 1 levels. So when they pass a level, they've received their certificate, and we hang it up in the hallway. Some reasons they may not be completing those levels is they're not meeting their weekly usage, difficulty focusing, or they need reteaching of those skills where we print the lessons out and do small group instruction with them. So just a summary about the Lexia reports and the data that we included. 50% or higher of the students are meeting their weekly usage time. Most of the students are working below grade level on skills. Students have passed levels and worked their way up throughout the Lexia. 79% of the students are currently considered at risk. Many students need individualized lessons to reteach skills they're not mastering, but all the students are showing growth, which is good. So we'll move on to STAR. This is based on what they scored in August, their scale score, and what they scored the last time we took it in March. And then it shows their growth over there. So 100% of the students are showing growth. Scale score, what that is, it's based on the difficulty of questions and the number of correct answers they mastered on the assessment. Some reasons maybe we're not showing as much growth is some of the students are struggling with reading, so they're having difficulty reading the question or understanding what it's asking. And we know that the students who have an IEP, they don't get a reader on the STAR assessment. So here is we're using the percentiles, a comparison chart. The light purple is when we took it in August, and the dark purple is when we took it in March. So students scoring in the 10th percentile or below are served as Tier 3. So at the beginning of the year, we had 25% who were below the 10th percentile. When we took it last time in March, we only had 10% who were below the 10th percentile, which is good. Like I said, the drop from 25 to 10. The number of students scoring from 25th to 100th percentiles increased over the course of the year. So that in 26th to 50th percentile, we increased 5%, as well as 51st and 75th, and 76th to 100th. So those are all increasing. Just to summarize the STAR data, all students showed a growth on their scaled scores, but did not on the percentiles. Like if you look at what their percentile was at the beginning of the year versus what it is now, not all of them increased percentiles. So I think that, some of that could be as the test gets harder as we go throughout the year, and the expectations to be at that percentile, as we know, increase. So students are mastering some of the 4th grade standards on that assessment, which is good. Here is a chart based on the fluency checks that we did in the fall. Students should start the year in 4th grade reading an average of 94 words correct per minute. 75% of the students were not reading that. 25% of the students were somewhat close to benchmark. If you look right here, we have 76 to 90 and then 91 to 105. I think some of the reasons maybe they're not mastering the fluency is because they mispronounce the word. They substitute a different word if they're not sure of what one is, and they read so fast. Sometimes they just don't slow down. Here is based off the last time we did it in March, based in the spring. At this point in the year, students should be reading 130 words correct per minute. So it does increase. 35% of the students are ending the year reading as many as they should be, or more. And again, 25% pretty close to that benchmark, so we could push them further. Some of the reasons they may not be meeting that is the vocabulary, the 4th grade vocabulary. They could struggle on that when they're trying to read it. And they lack self-confidence, when they're reading it and they don't know a word. Sometimes they just skip it because they don't want to sound it out. They don't want to feel like they don't understand it. So here's a comparison between fall and spring. We had some students decreased right here, but I feel like that's good because they increased here. So we are kind of moving them that way, which is good. They showed an increase in reading 105 words correct per minute than they did in the fall because we didn't have any reading that back in the fall. And just a summary on the fluency checks, 75% of the students began the year not reading as many words as they were expected. It was 95 at the beginning of the year. Most of the students were reading 61 to 75 words correct per minute in the fall, and we pushed that higher in the spring. Students need more focus on decoding, and we need to teach them that it is okay if you mispronounce it. That is one way you can learn to be more accurate. Here is data analysis on the Scott Forsman assessment that we give every week. 75% of the students scored out of 70% or higher. This is based on the Unit 1 fall assessment that we gave over the whole unit.